There's a perception problem, and it is a real challenge because for those people to know Marg is to discover somebody whose mind is so alert and whose mind is like a computer. If you ask her what she had for lunch 14 years ago this August when we went to Niagara Falls, she could tell you not only what she ate, but what everybody else ate too. Wonderful memory, and she gets a lot of affirmation here in the community for that. But the medical people don't always know that, and so they take her at face value as they experience her, and because she can't speak the way in which she would like to, she's at a disadvantage, and it makes her very vulnerable.
Did the surgery, but they were very mean to me and they wouldn't help me. One day I had to go to the washroom to get help. The nurse was making the bed and she said, "You can go by yourself." So I went and I fell. And they got help and the doctors were at me.
The whole experience of her knee operation was an extremely painful operation. And from a pastoral care standpoint, I cared about the pain she was in, but I also cared about the lack of sensitivity. The lack of sensitivity on the part of staff who couldn't help a person who was feeling jittery about walking, for the surgeon to make Mrs. Brady feel as though she's at fault for falling, to curse at her and to say, "What in the so-and-so were you doing?" without checking into the circumstances that surrounded what happened. For a doctor to stand at the foot of her bed and to say to her, "What are you always lying in bed for? Why don't you get up and sit up?" And she said, "I can't get to the chair by myself." "Oh, you can't get up and walk by yourself? Well then, I guess you better be in a nursing home." "Nurse, where are the forms to fill out for the nursing home?" Well, when I got there to find Marg crying and fearful of going to a nursing home, I knew the implications of that for her. She's a significant member of this community. But because she can't always express those feelings, it makes medical people feel as though she's somehow incompetent.
Come in and say, "How are you? How are you feeling?" They don't bother coming in sometimes. You don't see them all day.
One of the things that Marg shared with me was when the medical people come in the morning to make their rounds, why can't the doctor ask me how I'm doing or how I'm feeling? The doctor looks at me, then turns to the nurse and says, "How is she doing today?"
Yeah, how's she doing? Well, they all knew my family was out of town. Yeah, and I didn't complain all the time because then when I would ring for something, they wouldn't answer me.
one senses that if it is known that you don't have family and others close by who are going to care about quality care, the temptation is to slough off a little and ease off and not be there, knowing that you're going to get away with it. And that is a real fear. And Marg has just expressed that, knowing that her family was out of the city. There's a real sense in which the fear of not being cared for and not being heard, and if I grumble, if I complain, you might completely withdraw from me, and then I will be very much alone. And I'm dependent on you. I'm lying here in this bed with a cast on my leg, internal problems, and I can't speak very well. And that puts me at a different end of the playing field than you as a doctor. The challenge is to involve the patient as much as possible in their own recovery process, which is basically to ask the question, Marg, what do you need while you're here from us, and what can you do on your own to help in that process, so that you can be here for as short a time as necessary and you can be out on your own and back to your apartment as soon as possible. And I think with that kind of attitude and that kind of approach, we then have a team. We then have a sense of working together at this. And at this point, with her experience, it hasn't felt that way. It has felt that she's the recipient of whatever service she's lucky enough to get, as opposed to a partner in her own process.